What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the shop and to the channel. And we're back today on the Behind Mower build, or refresher, rejuvenation. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, I've got a couple goals in mind for today, and so we'll see what we can do. One of them is to order some things, and so we can only go as far with what we have before I order things and those arrive. One goal that I have is to get this pulley removed, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because these are a challenge. The one thing that I'm hopeful of is that this actually has a split sleeve on it. I'm pretty sure this pulley is separate from the sleeve, and it's just tightened down and the sleeve is expanded to hold the pulley on. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because these can take you forever, and you'll end up just bending it and be stuck with a piece of junk at the end, and so you spend all that time for nothing when I could just order a new one. So we'll start by buzzing the bolt off. I've been spraying this with WD-40, so hopefully that has helped. We can even heat it a little bit to see if it makes a difference, and we'll see what happens. So that's goal number one for today. Stay tuned. I'm guessing we're about a 5/8, but we'll find out here. There's a 5/8. Great. Yeah, this is not going to be worth it. So what I thought was a split shaft was just a spacer down at the bottom. This thing is rusted, completely solid. So I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to measure up the diameter. I think it's about a 4-inch, maybe 5-inch pulley, and we'll measure our crankshaft on the new engine. I think it's the same. And we're just going to order a pulley. So it's not worth the hassle. You can try putting a puller on here, but a lot of times you just bend the crap out of the thin sheet metal pulley. I've also drilled holes in here and run bolts through to use a puller. And that has worked, but you still end up warping it a little bit, and it's just not going to be worth it. So let's move on from that. Goal number 2 for the day is whether or not this fuel tank is going to be of any use to us. I've got a couple options for fuel tank. This one I think looks really sleek. So if we go over to the new engine, just kind of taking a look at the side where the existing tank is opposite the muffler. So if we put it on that muffler side, that's going to be a problem. We can't do that. If we move around to the other side, we're kind of in the way. We've got our throttle and choke cable coming down. We've got our air filter that really sticks out, and so that makes a big difference compared to the other engine. So I'm not thrilled about that. We could end up mounting it on the back here where there's plenty of room. We've got 2 bolts where there's a potential for mounting. So let's go over and take a look at that. If none of that works, I have an unattractive option of just building a little stand for it to stand on the mower, which I'm not thrilled about. My intention is to sell this, and I don't want to make it look too rickety. I want to do it right. So, yeah, unfortunately, this uses 2 real narrow bolts on a flat surface on the side of the block here. That's totally different than what we have going on over on the new engine. The other thing is, if we were to put it there, kind of curved up against the back of the engine, that kicks our fuel outlet to the right side, and on the new engine it's on the left. So that's an issue as well. So I think what I'm going to do is look up our new engine, which is this 13 horse Intech, And I'm pretty sure they made these with a tank. And if I can find a part number to that tank, depending on the price, I might end up just ordering that as well. So a couple things to order. The other thing to discuss, I'll take you out to the mower. I kind of gave you my thoughts on what I was going to do as far as a starting and a battery system. So I want to take you out there and just kind of talk you through it and show you the parts that I'm planning to use and see what you think. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of lay this out to show you my thoughts. So I had mentioned I wasn't sure whether I wanted to run cables the length of the hitch all the way up to the towing vehicle or not. For a couple reasons I don't. It's going to be more expense because it's more parts and it's more work. And the other problem with that is, with wanting to sell this, I'm not sure what the new buyer is going to be using it with. And so if I was to rig up some sort of a solenoid and a switch or whatever on my end, on my mower or whatever I wanted to use it on, then that wouldn't apply to whatever they're wanting to use it on. The other thing that I'm not crazy about with modifying the tow vehicle is, what if somebody has multiple tow vehicles that they intend to use the mower with? Somebody that I've got in mind for it has a four-wheeler, they also have a zero-turn, they have a tractor, and they have a golf cart. Not that they'd be pulling this with a golf cart, but I'm just saying they have 3 out of 4 vehicles there where this would be a useful thing. And so if they were going to modify every one of those vehicles, the expense would be ridiculous compared to just having this be all one unit with the same, actually with a fewer amount of parts. So I think that's what we're going to do. And so kind of what I have in mind, we're on what would be we'll call it the passenger side. So I'm actually on the wrong side. I need to move over because the engine mounts facing backwards. It's kind of hard to remember that when you're just looking at it. So let me grab this other side plate. One way we can remember is the key switch is over here, and so the key switch is going to match where the starter's at. So what I'm picturing doing is I've got an almost brand new one of these small engine lawn and garden batteries, and that'll kind of fit right in here somewhere. Just depends. I don't know. I've got these louvers sort of in the way, but let's just, for example, put that right here. So that's going to mount in a battery box for just weatherproof, and it'll make it look a little bit better. So I'll put a sort of a marine style battery box. That's something I've got to buy. That's going to mount here. And then I've got a 4-pole solenoid. I just keep these on hand because I use them all the time. And this is going to make our wiring very simple. All we got to do is this solenoid's going to mount wherever. I guess right ahead of depends on where the battery box is at, but maybe right ahead of the battery there. And the way that these work is you've got both of your positives. Your positive from the battery is just going to be a short cable run here. Our other large post is a positive cable to the start terminal on the side of the starter, the large terminal. So that's going to be another real short run right there, which I like. Not much to go wrong with short battery runs. Then we need to somehow ground this to the engine, so we're just going to run a nice little negative over to one of the mounting bolts of the engine. And that's it for large gauge wiring. Then the only other things to do is we need to ground one of the terminals on the small side of the solenoid. So that can either run just to the chassis, we can run a short wire there to the chassis of the solenoid itself, or we can run right up here to the negative battery or to the mounting bolt that we use for a ground on the engine. Plenty of nice short connections there for our ground. Then the last terminal is our positive start terminal from the key switch. And what's nice is we've got the key switch right here. So that's going to be a real short run. Under here, I'll probably drill a hole and put a grommet in it to run that positive right up to the solenoid there. So essentially our electrical is going to be, we need a positive feed from the battery to the key switch, and then we need our start position on the key switch to come back to the solenoid right there. That'll start it, other than the battery connections. To kill it, we're going to have a kill wire from the engine. It's usually black. I got to go take a look again. And what that does is you ground the coil with that. And so that's going to be our whatever position we have that has continuity, and we'll run one terminal to ground unless I get a case grounded ignition switch. But anyway, we'll run one to ground if needed. The other end of that has continuity in the off position will go to our kill wire. So we've got shutting the engine off covered. And the only other thing is the stator, which will charge our battery. We'll run that. What I like to do, and I've done this on my John Deere 116 that I rewired, and I've done it on a number of other mowers where I've built harnesses, or made harnesses. You don't really build a harness. Is I've just run the charging wire direct through a fusible link to the positive battery. I've been fine doing that. Some people would say you would want to run it through the key switch so that your battery and your stator is not connected in the off position. We can do that, but for simplicity and because I know it works, I'm probably just going to run my charging wire directly through about a 25 amp fuse to the positive battery. So with that simple amount of short, direct, tight wiring, we're going to have everything we need. So that's the plan, and I've got all that on hand, which makes a big difference. The only thing I might consider doing is a smaller battery. We can get like a little Amazon lithium-ion battery if we wanted to, but it just depends. If I find a nice power sports kind of motorcycle style battery box for cheap, I might do that, because it'll make our package a little bit smaller here, and I don't know, the word I want to use is concise, but you get the idea. One concern I'm just now realizing is that geez, it's windy. Our exhaust comes out right over here. And so I think we will, worst case scenario, have to relocate over to that side with the electrical. Otherwise, we might move it back to here if I go with a real small battery. It just kind of depends. So anyway, we'll go in and take a look at the computer and look at getting a few things ordered for today.